Good afternoon, Facebook. This is an impromptu Facebook Live, and so hopefully we'll get some people on the live broadcast, and if not, if you're just joining me, watching this maybe later tonight as you're making some Thanksgiving dinner, or tomorrow morning when you're awake, hopefully this information will be helpful for you. My name is Claire Smith, and I am a health blogger here on this Facebook page called Claire Smith, pretty basic, and I am here to help transform you from the inside out. And so a lot of my message is regarding physical fitness and what we're eating and some of the practical ways there. But truly my heart is to go a lot deeper with you as we transform ourselves in our minds and in our souls. And the way that I believe that to be true is through Jesus Christ. And so that is the platform. So if you're new here, I'd just like to welcome you. And that's a little bit of myself. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I have a full afternoon ahead of me. My mom's coming this evening and we are preparing Thanksgiving. I'll be hosting it for the first time tomorrow. So lots of fun and lots of hands to help us. But I know just like you guys have a lot on your plans too. So I want to talk just a bit about the Thanksgiving table. I'm calling this the Thanksgiving table because actually, if you follow me for any amount of time, you know there's more than just one thing that this broadcast is going to be about. And so I want to help you in two ways today, this afternoon. First of all, I want to kind of give you some practical things, some practical tips on how you can kind of manage the food and the eating portion of Thanksgiving, kind of the way that I go around it and the way that I go about eating Thanksgiving food and holidays in general. And then I'm also going to touch on an additional element as well. So first time, hey Candace, first time, that's a big deal. It is a big deal hosting it, but my mom's doing all the really hard foods. So hey, if you are here, I'd like you to say hi below. Let me know what state you're from, and hopefully Facebook will not put it as a spam comment as it did like two broadcasts ago. But I love seeing where you guys are coming and seeing me from. And also if you have any questions throughout this, I will try to come through at the end and answer those. And if not, after the broadcast, I will come and try to answer those as well. So anyways, okay, so let's get right to it. So if we want to talk about some practical tips for Thanksgiving, you know, how do you eat? How do you go about this thing? And there's a lot of ways to cut this. As you can imagine, every time I talk to you, I feel like I'm telling you that. There's really no one perfect way for me to tell you how to eat and how to drink and how to do whatever you want to do for Thanksgiving. It's a puzzle piece that only you can decide what works for you. So hey, from Pennsylvania and Oxford, Michigan, right? I think I know my states well. So what I want you to know is number one, is this is unique to yourself. This is unique to you. So the tips that I'm going to give you, you may take some away and be like, that's helpful. And some of them you're going to be like, nope, not going to fly, just not going to work. And that's absolutely fine. So I want you to be okay with that. So practically what I like to do when it comes to holidays and events where I know I'm going to be eating quite a bit, here are just some of the basic things that I do. Number one, I start my day out with a lot of water just because I want to cleanse my system, and it does kind of help you feel full. So water is a super important thing for me. It's easy when you're with other people to not have that water element, and especially when there's different drinks like punches, and I mean if you drink alcohol it might be around different types of iced teas and such that you normally don't drink. So I think that it's really important to have water. So I want to encourage you even tonight to start the water tonight. It'll be a good thing. So that's number one. Number two is I try to get a workout in of some sorts. Now for me, I'm not usually able to do a turkey trot. A lot of people do a turkey trot, and I think that's an awesome and a fun way to start your Thanksgiving. But because of logistics of usually me traveling and whatever, it just doesn't work. So I'll try to get up and maybe do a quick 3-mile run or something like that in the morning. Or I have a ton of like Tabata workouts, or I have a deck of card workout on my blog. I might link to that below. And it's just real quick, intense body weight workouts that you can do before everybody comes to the house or before you leave. You don't have to, but it's just one of those things that I feel a little bit better burning a few extra calories. I have found that if you kind of start the day on the right foot, you're more apt to stay on that foot, where if you kind of start the day and you're just like, I don't care what's going on, there's a chance you're gonna slide down quickly, okay? And so just something to consider that you might like. So that's what I do for workouts. You can, now as far as the eating portion goes, my typical rule of thumb is enjoy what you have there, especially on these types of events where maybe you don't always get that specific casserole dish or that specific dessert and you're like, I never eat this except for now. Well, I want you to eat it, okay? I'm not gonna be one of those people that's like, don't eat it. And guess what? I might even tell you to get seconds if you never ever get to eat that. Now, if you were going out to eat at a place that you can always return to, then I would probably tell you to kind of balance that a little bit. But since Thanksgiving is a little unique, a lot of people aren't making these side dishes often, then I think that it's totally fine to do that. So I always lead with protein, of course. So tomorrow, whatever your protein would be, it's easy to start into those carbs tomorrow. My mom and I were looking at our menu. We're like carb, 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 and carb. And so, which is totally fine. I will eat some tomorrow. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'll probably have a roll with butter even, you guys. So, and some mashed potatoes and noodles. That's how we do it in our family. But I don't feel guilty about that in the slightest. I take it for what it is and move on. So, but you can lead with protein to make sure that you are full, that you actually are able to do that. So I think that's really important too. One thing that I want to mention, and I think a lot of us forget this, is that tonight is when Thanksgiving kind of starts. So if you're traveling, or if your family's coming into town, like one year my sister-in-law, she's Cambodian, and her mother makes these awesome egg rolls, and they came to town and we had egg rolls and pizza and we just enjoyed one another on Wednesday night. And then we had Thanksgiving on Thursday. So a lot of you're starting to party tonight. When I say party, you know what I mean. You're just getting social. And this is a really big night that a lot of people do hang out. And so I just want you to keep that in mind. I mean, how you work with that is going to be up to you if you choose to kind of be mindful and still say, I'm going to keep the calories at bay tonight. But it's typically not just Thanksgiving Day that gets us in this slip. It's a combination. And so for some of you, it starts tonight. And I know for me, it's probably gonna start a little bit tonight. We're gonna order some organic but healthy pizza, and we're gonna start cooking a little bit. So how you work that is important, but just know that it's a thing, okay? And so then the other piece to that, so we bookend Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving starts Wednesday night, then you got Thanksgiving, and all day of Thanksgiving, and then you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have leftovers. You have that dish that you absolutely love. And so I think that it's amazing that you can eat those types of things, and I think it's okay. But I just, again, want you to be mindful of that. Know that Thanksgiving is not just on Thursday. Thanksgiving is kind of like a long, drawn-out process, which brings me to the next thing. Now we start this holiday seasonal kind of slide in our health, right? It starts a lot of times at Halloween because we have all this type of food and candy and all that kind of stuff. But then as you go into Halloween, and then we go into Thanksgiving, and now the holiday parties start, all of a sudden it's just like, oop, we're sliding down. And so again, how you kind of tackle that issue for each person is a little different. But just know you're not eating just on Thanksgiving tomorrow. If it were just tomorrow, I would say do what you want to do. But know that it's bookend, and then it starts this little seasonal slip. And then the seasonal slip gets us into this point where we're just like, of course, we're back at it again. This is the cycle of how it always works in my life. And I don't really care. And I'm going to eat whatever I want. And okay, fine. But just know that our choices have consequences. And so if you choose to do that, you might find yourself back in the same exact spot next year, but 5 or 10 pounds heavier. You may find yourself back on that New Year's resolution, January 1st, being like, oh, I feel so terrible and guilty. You know, you don't have to do that, guys. You don't have to do that. You have the power right now to say, we're going to change it. It's not going to be big and drastic change, but it's going to be a change enough to where it might make a difference. You will behave how you feel. Okay. The things that you do you act on what you believe about yourself. Okay, so if you think like, this is just how it is every holiday, here we go. And we've got all these parties, and I can't deny all the chocolate, and I can't deny all this kind of stuff. And you're already maybe in a spot where you're not exactly thrilled with your weight, then you're going to continue behaving and eating in that pattern. You're not going to actually stop and say, you know, I don't have to do this. Like, I can actually eat like an athlete, if you want to say, or whatever. But if you start making and empowering yourself and making some healthy choices, you're going to start acting like that, whether the scale moves or not. So my coaching clients, a lot of times we focus on their behavior. So maybe they'll come to me one week and they'll say, I had a terrible week, Claire. I did this, 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 and this. And I'll say, okay, let's discuss. So we discuss all the issues where they kind of started to slide. And then the next week, we focus on those specific behaviors. They found that they had some victory in that. And I asked them, has your weight changed at all? Like from last week when you did bad to this week when you were there. And basically they're like, no, it actually never did change. But they feel so much better about themselves because they had this new brain and mentality, I guess you could say, of being able to change their situation. And so you will behave how you feel. And so that's why, like on tomorrow morning, if you wake up and are like, okay, I started the day out with some water, I went on a walk, or I did a quick 20-minute workout, I'm gonna go ahead and eat breakfast this morning, I'm gonna treat it just like a normal day, and then I'm gonna have Thanksgiving or whatever. I think that that's gonna serve you really well in the long run. Whereas if you woke up and you're just like, I feel like a sloth, and I'm just gonna eat whatever I want and be lazy or whatever, it may backfire on you. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you guys. If not, you can make a comment below. But you do behave how you feel. The final thing is this. It is less about what actually happens on that specific day and more about what happens getting back on the wagon. Okay, so this is also something I work with constantly with my clients. It's not so much that they fell off the wagon. It's not so much that you had a really bad day or two, or that this weekend you're like, I know it's gonna be a rough one. It's less about that and more about you getting yourself back up again, and how quickly you get yourself back up. You know, in a training context, for me, when I work out, people are always surprised that I'm like, how are you pushed yourself? Are you tired? I can't believe you're tired. You mean that's a hard workout for you? I can't believe that's a hard workout for you. And when I tell them, yeah, it is, but I'm training that fitness level on me. I push myself to this point of depletion, and in this example, you kind of dropping and dropping the ball with your eating or whatever, so that I can learn how to get back up again quickly and become more fit. That to me is the most important part, is the fit level. How quickly can I get back up and be stronger in that physical sense? Well, I want you guys to apply that too in the same way. So you're probably gonna do some things and eat some things this weekend that you're not maybe thrilled about. Maybe you will, I don't know. And so it's less about that, and it's more about what you do that next day, or even the next meal, to be honest with you. Every time you eat and drink, you have a chance to impact your health, every single time. And it doesn't have to start at 8 a.m. in the morning. It can start right now. As a matter of fact, it's 2 o'clock Ohio time. So if you've had a really terrible day because everybody at work brought in a whole bunch of food, you can stop right now and say, that's okay, good, that's behind me. Now I'm gonna make sure I drink my water, and I'm gonna continue on with whatever else is. That's empowering, you guys. If you get stuck in this whole like old mentality of it is what it is, and I'm gonna repeat it all the time, you're probably gonna drop off and you'll lose steam until you've gained another 15 pounds, and then you're like, no, I'm serious this time. This is where it counts. This is where it counts. So get back up on the wagon. Okay, so those are kind of my practical things that I want you guys to think through as we're talking about the Thanksgiving table. Now, the final piece that I want to just go over, and you know that, of course, I'm going to bring this up in some capacity, is this emotional piece of the Thanksgiving table. In particular, this year with a heightened political season with people with emotions, there are also things happening in each of your lives. There's a phrase that I say a lot, and a lot of my friends say a lot can happen in a year. And so this Thanksgiving looks different than last year's Thanksgiving. Some of you, it's a good thing. Some of you, this Thanksgiving is a blessing. You're coming to the table with restored relationships. You're coming to the table with a new baby. You're coming to the table with a new job, and it's a good thing. Some of you, though, are coming to the table and you've got some deep wounds. Maybe you've got some hurts, maybe you've got some things that people have said to you, some areas in your life that you are really struggling with. And so we come to this Thanksgiving table with all of that on our backs and in our hearts. Now, I will say this, that actually manifests itself physically. A lot of time we eat our emotions. We find these comfort foods. And so some of you right now are in this little tension battle spot where you might need to be a little more mindful about the foods you have around you, because you are, you're just vulnerable. You're vulnerable. And so it may backfire on you if you start eating your emotion. And that could be both ways, actually. You could be a happy eater or a sad eater, I'm not sure. And so I know that in a year, a lot can change. The political climate has changed. I think there's a parody by that one funny husband and wife couple that talks about Thanksgiving at their couch or something. And it's funny. We can all laugh about it because goodness knows we need a laugh right now. But it is also a true thing. I want to read one passage of scripture to you. And I want you guys to consider this, because us as Christians, I'm going to speak to a Christian. I'm not going to speak to somebody who I would not hold to the teachings of Christ. If you don't consider that as a part of your life, I'm not going to hold you to this standard. But for those of you who say that, yes, Jesus is the Son of God, he died and his blood is on me, it was spilled so I can spend eternity with God, well, then we live by a different standard. And so Colossians 4, verses 2 through 6, okay, so hang with me here. It says, devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful. And pray for us too, that God may open a door for our message, so that we may proclaim the mystery of Christ, for which I am in chains. Pray that I may proclaim it clearly as I should. Be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Now, there's a lot in this passage, and maybe tomorrow morning when you wake up, or tonight, this would be a great time to spend with the Lord. Just before everybody, get your coffee, turn on some music, before the crazy day goes, pull out Colossians 4, 2 through 6, and let the Word of God sink into you and see what he might be telling you in this. But for me, it is telling us, of course, to be devoting ourselves to prayer. And so again, I always want to make sure that when we come to this Thanksgiving table tomorrow with all these high emotions, good or bad, let's be prayerful about it. Let's be prayerful about it. Let's bathe that table in prayer. Be thankful. It tells us to be thankful here. It tells us to be wise in the way we act towards outsiders. So we have a lot of people at our table. Maybe not all of them are in the same faith category. Maybe they were and they have fallen away from the Lord. I have friends who have some really serious family issues going on right now, and it's hard and it's tricky. It's not clear and it's messy. And these people who used to claim Christ. And so now at this table, we have a really hard situation. It's a really, really hard emotional thing. But we want to be wise in the way we act towards outsiders, making the most of every opportunity, which means we come to the Thanksgiving table saying, Lord, what is it that maybe we could talk about? Not just as we're eating, but throughout the day, of course. How can we be proactive in reaching our friends and our family? Verse 6 says, let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt. And I put an image up every single year. I'll probably put it up again tomorrow. And I say that don't let the turkey and the mashed potatoes be the only thing seasoned with salt. It is supposed to be our conversation tomorrow. It is supposed to be seasoned with grace and salt. And so that looks different. That looks different. But see, that can't happen unless you've been in prayer and unless you've been thankful and unless you're trying to be wise in the way that you act towards outsiders. Those things are all going to help us as we have these grace-filled conversations with people across the table. And so let's just remember that tomorrow. And if you're moving on into Black Friday shopping and you've got a full weekend where you're interacting with other people beyond your living room, these principles still apply. The principles still apply, that we want to make sure that all of these things that we're doing is filled with grace because we are different. We are set apart as a Christian, okay? And so that makes our Thanksgiving table look and feel a lot different. And it's all obviously for the glory of the Lord, that our Thanksgiving, that we always go back to him for that. And so I also believe that if you start your day out with this, and you get your soul and your mind right, because I'm not stupid. I know that a lot of you out there you got some rough conversations going to come up tomorrow. You got that thing with a family member that you're a little bitter about. You've got something, and Satan right now, he has what we call a foothold. And so he's got you just like right here, you know, and if you don't deal with that, that's going to become a stronghold in your life and in that conversation. And so we don't want that power to happen. We don't want that to happen. And so that's kind of the emotional piece of the Thanksgiving table that I also want you guys to be thinking about, because it's not just about our physical body, it's everything all in one. So do you guys have any questions right now about either the practical end, maybe what I do in regards to holidays or eating, or the emotional, spiritual end? If you do, please put some below. And again, I'm hoping that Facebook isn't considering these spam. I do see some people. Hey, Jeannie. I'm kind of going through the comments right now. And I know not everybody's doing Thanksgiving tomorrow too, because this is not just a United States platform. All right. Well, I don't think we have any other questions on here. I know the Living Inactive Challenge is over, and I have not done a Facebook Live in a week or two. So I think next week I'm going to kind of start a little more regular. I've got some topics I kind of want to discuss, and so kind of looking forward to that as well. Okay, guys. Well, if you have any questions, I will always come through and double check a few of these things. Or the comments. If you have any questions, I will respond to those as much as possible. So, hey, Melissa, thank you. I'm glad that the comment is working. Thank you so much. Oh, side note, if you live in Ohio, I put this up yesterday. I'm speaking at a Christmas event, a ladies' dinner. And so I have information about that on my timeline. It's in a couple Tuesdays. And so if you live locally, or even in like Middle Ohio, Columbus, or Pennsylvania or something, it would be great to see you. So, okay, guys, have an awesome Thanksgiving. I will link to some of the things that I talked to you below in the comments. And as always, I appreciate if you share this if you found it to be helpful or inspirational. All right, we will talk to you guys later. Bye.